Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video number 263, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry. I've got my co-editor here, of course. She's not credited in any of the books yet, but at some point have to co-write a novel or something. This is a 78-page booklet, so it's intermediate in length, and it's extremely good. And it's interesting to note that Manly Hall was not a Mason when he wrote this. This was his second work. He was barely in his 20s at the time. Like his first work, he was like 20, and this one I think he was 21, 22 or something. He wasn't a Mason at the time. He didn't join them till the 50s, apparently. Link in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon. There's a second and third link as well to my books blogs, Blogspot and WordPress. I just did Initiates of the Flame. That was a release the other day. That's also a Manly Hall early work, delves into Freemasonry. This one more explicitly, though. And essentially, while the first work, Initiates of the Flame, was more broad symbolism, Masons, Rosicrucian, so the Arthurian legends and stuff, a little bit about alchemy. This one's more specifically on the Freemasons and actually carries a foreword that was by one of their master Masons, I guess locally. Very interesting work. Apparently was created to great applause by an order he wasn't even a member of because he simply enjoyed learning about all of the occult and the mystic, and so that was part of it. Anyway, it talks about the legend of Hiram Abiff, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation because, you know, I didn't exactly study ancient Hebrew or something. This is a figure at the center of basically a metaphorical story that roughly corresponds to the idea of the grand design, the grand architect of the universe. The Masons, of course, are a pan-religious order. You need to believe in a God to be a Freemason, but you don't have to specifically be a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or anything. If you believe in the basic premise in a direct way, you can become a Freemason. The general overarching idea of the society is that the grand architect of the universe has sort of drafted people, as it were, and that they're carrying on the grand design. They can only, you know, roughly approximate it. The idea of the Master Mason is someone who has absorbed the proper spiritual lessons and metaphors, understands them, practices them, is living what you would consider a holy life under the general broad concept of being charitable, being productive, being a good person in maybe the broadly Judeo-Christian sense, even if Judeo-Christianity is not technically part of it. The basic premise is definitely westernized. And this particular metaphor of this sort of divine builder, the killing of the divine builder by three ruffians, which correspond roughly to human vices, and then therefore the grand work that's sort of a person is supposed to partake in without any feelings of ego and loftiness. This is basically what Manly Hall is writing about. Now he goes further than that. That's actually only one section within this book. It's also got the Emerald Tablet, and it gives an interpretation of that. Now, may I briefly digress off the basic topic of this book and address the Emerald Tablet briefly? Some people believe that the Emerald Tablet of Hermes is like a grimoire, that it's a book or something, and that it's extant. It's not. We've got multiple interpretations of this basic, extremely short manuscript document, including the one by Hall, which is given here, which is considered, I guess, one of the more important ones. I think there are, 20 or 30 different interpretations of the basic meaning, I think, thereof. Google it. It's all widely available. It's not some hidden, sort of premise that you can't find out about unless you search through the ancient tomes of the ruins of the Library of Alexandria deep out in the deserts in some waste place. A lot of people seem to think so, though. It's sort of like the Voynich manuscript, or the Devil's Bible, so-called, which is really just a massive illuminated document from I think the early Renaissance, if I remember correctly. People are ascribing a level of strangeness to it that's not actually there. And so he treats of it briefly. It's a half a page, basically, and then a little bit of a symbolic interpretation. Keep in mind, Manly Hall's basic gist of mysticism was highly symbolic to begin with. He gets into some really spooky woo stuff later on. Like, I was listening to some of his lectures the other night, and it's like, you sit there, you're like almost zoning out because it's like, what the hell? At certain points, it's like, what the hell are you talking about? At other points, great deal of philosophical wisdom. One of my favorite authors, by the way, within the occult. So again, link in the description of this video to my edition of this work on Amazon. highly recommended. If you're interested in the Masons, you're going to get a better view of it from this than you are some crazy, like, Vatican-style writing, well, the Masons drink blood. Interesting order at the very least, whether you agree with their spiritual tenets or not. At least they're, coherent. Second and third links to my books, blogs. I don't have a lot of Masonic material available. I've actually got a booklet at home. I've been meaning to transcribe it. It's on their funeral customs. I'm going to attempt to release that at some point. I think my edition is from 1921 or something, so it's out of copyright. I can definitely transcribe and release it. It's just a matter of I'm not actually at home right now. I'm in the I can't telekinetically summon it like Harry Potter. It's a big problem. Magic just won't let me do that right now. The divine current has departed the world during Kali Yuga. I can't levitate. It's very sad. If I could, it'd be easier to get to and from the store because I could just levitate over the construction site that's in the middle of the fucking neighborhood. So again, highly recommended work. You should definitely check it out. That's about all. Peace out.